My stepdad had a hidden camera to spy on me during my private moments. So my story is about 2 or 3 years old at this point, but I just thought I'd bring it up because I saw someone else had a story that was kind of similar. My stepdad would constantly be buying Amazon products, and in one of his Alexas he got a small camera for free, which he promptly set up in our living room but told my mum not to tell me. Weird, right? Well, my mum thought so too, so she told me straight away, but as he explained to her, he wanted to catch me with boys in the house when they weren't there. Which, first off, he never left the house. He was 28 stone and didn't bother to ever leave, so I don't know how he thought I'd have boys around, but there you go. Secondly, he said that it was for house safety. However, it wasn't aimed at any doors or windows, nor was it in an area of the house that people could break into. It was solely above the sofa I would sit on. We later found out through lots of text messages that he was actually attracted to me, which was disgusting, but we realized the reason he put the cameras up wasn't to catch me with boys. It was to catch me undressed or in my undies if they ever went away, and to spy on my phone messages. He had full control over the camera, so my mum couldn't see what he was recording, but he admitted in lots of messages that this is what the camera was for, because for some reason that's what he wanted to do. I noticed the camera straight away, so I was never in a compromised position with it, but seeing someone else's story about their mum forcing them to have a camera gave me flashbacks to what he did. Luckily, my story has a happy ending. He died in 2020 from the pandemic, and we haven't had a camera up since, so it's been great to have the privacy I'm entitled to as an almost 21-year-old adult. I'm a little messed up from dealing with him for 8 years of adolescence, but we're all good now. I actually feel at home. He had accrued £10,000 worth of debt, and we couldn't afford his funeral, so we had to borrow money from family and a Kickstarter. My mum's stair lift broke that week as well, which cost £1,700 to fix, and then throw on top all of the stress of my mum having stage 4 cancer, and you've got yourself a fricking mess. The worst part was it cost my mum £60 to send his ashes to his mother, who couldn't even be bothered to go to her only son's funeral. I honestly didn't expect, luckily my story has a happy ending, to be followed by my stepdad kicked the bucket, but there you go. You definitely weren't the jerk in this story, and although it can seem a little ghoulish to relish in him passing away, it sounds like he was a pretty awful influence on your life, and in some senses I can understand the relief. I hope you and your mum went on to better things. At that point, if you have all the medical bills you say you do and none of the rest of his family cares enough to foot the bill, then just disperse them. Look, it doesn't even have to be a negative thing. Go somewhere nice, celebrate some of the admittedly scarce positive memories that you have of the old fella, and scatter the ashes off a nice hillside and return him to nature. Although, given some of the memories you've shared of him, you have no guarantee that the ashes wouldn't have just whipped back and gone in everyone's faces for one final negative impression. Take your chances accordingly. Am I the jerk for not answering work emails while on vacation, resulting in the loss of a client? My husband and I took a much-needed vacation to the beach last week, and the entire week before we left, I sent emails around letting everyone know I'd be completely inaccessible for the week, so to come see me for any work materials needed, files, etc. I gave everyone everything I knew or thought they'd need, and left confident that everyone had prepared themselves, seeing as I'd given them 8 days to prepare. When I returned, I found chaos in the office. Apparently, one of my colleagues had needed files for a particularly important client of ours and had not been able to find them in my office, and I never responded to calls or emails as I warned I wouldn't do. This coworker knew they'd be handling this client and had 8 days and 12 hours a day to ask for all the pertinent files and appears to have not done so. In any case, I was blamed because the client is technically mine and I'm a supervisor of this coworker. I contend that I'm blameless because this coworker had 8 days to collect all their files like their other coworkers did, and they neglected to do so. No one seems to care about that. Am I the jerk here? Not the jerk. This is a classic, okay everyone, here's your window of opportunity to get anything you need from me, followed by crickets. This is on your coworkers and on your higher-ups for not getting on the others before you left too. And to think all of us thought that this was a student project type mentality that would finish when we left university. And evidently, if they're not taking disciplinary action against you for this supposed screw-up on your end, then they either realize it or don't want to risk losing the one staff member who's actually doing their job while they're there. Submit your own stories to be featured here on the channel, linked in the description below. And if you want to listen to some very good music in the background while you're chilling, check out easymode.com, also linked below, and subscribe. Your instructions are stupid. I'll keep doing things the way I've always done them. What do you mean I can't open tickets anymore? And why am I getting charged for it? To expand, we have a pretty simple system at my work. You ask for something and you get something. With me so far? It really is that simple for the user. We do have some pretty crazy routing on our end depending on what something is, but that's an entirely different story. There's also a big button that says, click here if you want something for someone else, with a giant red warning underneath that says, hey, if you don't use that big button right above, the something you ask for will be for you. We even have a, are you sure you don't mean you want it for someone else? You already have something, if the system detects you already have something. So, enter user A. This user supports many other users. The department might get a lot of turnover because every month they get at least one new person. Or maybe they're expanding. Who knows? It's not my problem. Like clockwork, the second Monday of every month we get a ticket. I asked for something for our new hire, but they never got it. Please fix. I'm not kidding. Literally every second Monday of the month, the last year or so. Can you guess what went wrong? Let me give you a hint. It has something to do with someone not using the giant red button and not reading the two different warnings or pop-ups. I'd gotten really tired of sending user A the same email every month. Please use the button to ask for something for someone else. We'll send ticket over to finance to swap the charges. That email also contains very detailed step-by-step instructions. The rest of my team had also gotten tired of hearing from user A, so we decided to not help this time, with manager and directors approving this. We disabled the ability for user A to submit tickets. They must call the help desk for tickets now. We also didn't forward the current ticket to finance. We sent user A a strongly worded email that basically said, look, you do this every month. We told you how to do this the correct way for a year. If you still can't figure it out, you're on your own and all these charges will fall on you. Attach the last 12 months worth of tickets. We CC user A's boss. User A must not have noticed her boss CC'd on the email because we got a nasty email back. What do you mean I can't open tickets anymore, and why am I getting charged for it? Do you know who I support? You'll fix this now or my boss will hear about this. Insert other comments about how stupid the system is and how incompetent my team is and other non-professional language. Email was also largely in caps. We didn't get around to responding until after lunch, but as it turns out, we don't need to respond anymore. User A's boss has apparently responded, I apologize for the behavior of user A. Please don't let her behavior affect the wonderful support you provide to our department. User B will now be responsible for interfacing with your team to get something for our new hires. Please grant user B the permissions user A previously had. I've read through your directions that you sent user A and tried them out. It worked as expected. User B will be using those directions to complete her work. Also, please find attached a ticket for terminating user A's network access. We killed user A's network account with pleasure. Love that. I bet that person was just a major trouble causer in general, and this wasn't the first time that their boss had been dragged in to deal with them. The kind of person who can't learn lessons for 12 months running for one of their major responsibilities is not going to be Employee of the Year anytime soon. It's kind of unclear whether them getting all their account privileges taken away means that they were getting fired. And if they were, it does make celebrating their misfortune a little darker, but it sounds like they were completely complacent in the terrible job and behavior they were exhibiting. Look, I understand being in a job you hate and mentally checking out of there, but you've got to accept a certain level of risk if you start giving that little of a crap at work. Regardless of this lady's fate, you were right to call out the fact that she was causing you massive inconvenience and can be satisfied that your lives will be that bit easier going forward. I bet the author's after-work drinks that week were jovial indeed after getting rid of them. Am I the jerk for wanting to walk into my first home without my wife? My wife, 25, and I, 27, have been married for 6 months now. I have a good job in sales, and I've managed to save enough to get together a deposit for a house. It's true that my parents have helped me out quite a bit financially as well. My wife has not been employed very consistently. She's worked as a model but hasn't saved much at all. I bought the house and the estate agent handed the keys over to me. My wife wasn't there at the handover. I was obviously super excited to show her the house and for us to start our lives together. We drove up to the house yesterday. I said to her while we sat in the car outside, "Is it okay if I go in alone first, just so I can have a moment alone in my first home?" I felt that it was a significant moment in my life and I wanted to experience it alone, even for just 30 seconds. My wife was upset about this and has been off with me ever since. We've moved some of our stuff in, but she's clearly teed off. I think she's being selfish. My brother says I'm being ridiculous. Okay, thanks for the critique, guys. I wasn't expecting that much of a response. I do see that all the replies are leaning towards me being the jerk. I've decided to apologize to my wife properly. I think I was quite caught up in the emotional intensity of the milestone. Thanks. Well, you were definitely in the wrong on that one, but at least you're big enough to admit it. Look, I'm not an expert on marriage, but I think that there's an implication that it comes with a certain joining of lives and goals. If you married this person and moved into your first home together, it's presumable that you guys plan on spending a significant, if not indefinite, part of your futures together and potentially having kids. So, let's be honest, underlining that she wasn't a part of your vision for your new life might prove to be an insurmountable obstacle for some spouses. But there is hope if you can apologize with humility and restate her importance to you. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, linked below, and if you want to listen to some very good music, check out easymode.com, also linked below, and subscribe. Company refuses to pay me overtime. I left the job site with the job incomplete and the client unhappy. This happened years ago when I was just starting to wake up to companies being terrible to their employees and employees taking it because they're just thankful to have a job. I worked as a sales rep for a company in the technology field. Two-way radios and alarms, to be specific. Said company never had enough technical staff, so I started training myself and asked our lead technician to teach me to program and sort out minor problems, as well as to do installations. Which was nice, since I was doing client visits 1 to 4 times a month, depending on how big the client was, and then I could sort out problems while I was on site. I ended up doing most of my clients' installations, and the manager of the technical department was happy because it was less work for him, and he knows I do jobs properly because I want to keep my clients happy. Accordingly, he had no problems signing my timesheets and overtime hours as well. Overtime was around 10 to 20 hours a month, so about 2 to 5 hours a week, which I think was a great deal considering I was doing the jobs of 2 people, actually. It went well for a few months until one day, just before payday, I got called in by the managing director/owner. He had my timesheets for the past few months in front of him. He asked me what they were and I gave him an explanation. He scratched my overtime out, saying sales reps don't get paid overtime. I tried to explain to him why I was claiming overtime and that he can ask the tech manager, but he was having none of it. I was teed off as it was a little extra money, but whatever. About a week later, I was at a client about 160 kilometers from the office. We had a big installation and were almost done except for programming and tidying up some cables. I checked the time and told the apprentice technician to pack up. He was like, "But we're not done with the job." I told him, "I don't care. I don't get paid overtime. It's 2 p.m. and it's still a 2-hour drive back to the office." We packed up, the client comes out and I give him the explanation, saying we'll be back the following morning to finish what was effectively 30 to 45 minutes of work. The client wasn't happy but understands that I don't get paid to work late. I was on the road about 15 minutes when my phone rings. It was the owner. Same one that said I can't get paid to do overtime. He asked what I was doing and why I wasn't finishing the job, as the client was not happy. I told him the explanation above, and then said that I don't get paid overtime, so I'm not working late and will drive back to finish tomorrow. Silence for about 5 seconds as I assume he realized I was following his express instructions and there was nothing he could do. He told me to go back and finish the job and we can talk about it later. I told him no. Unless he pays me overtime. He says he will, and I tell him to put it in an email before I turn back. I could hear him go red in the face. He said he'll send it now. I switched on my laptop, connected my dongle. This was still before smartphones and email on our phones. A few minutes later, the email came through. We turned around and finished the job. I got paid my overtime, and never again was there a query over my timesheets or the hours booked. I was the only rep out of 5 that got paid overtime. So I can't answer all the questions or reply to all the comments here. Thanks for all your wholesome feedback. I'll answer some of the questions on here for clarity. First, this happened in South Africa. The labor board here is not very efficient, especially when it comes to smaller companies. Also, this employer had extensive government contracts and knew a lot of people personally, so even reporting him wouldn't have helped much. And if they do investigate, it's pretty easy to get the investigation squashed with a bribe. My contract stipulated I was not entitled to overtime. I negotiated overtime with the technical manager as it would be mutually beneficial for both him and me if I did tech work as well, and ultimately the company would save money as well, so he agreed to it without any objections. The overtime didn't amount to much every month as it was based on basic salary, which was low. Commission made up 3/4 of my take-home pay, excluding allowances, so it wasn't much about the money, more about the principle. Other sales reps refused to do tech work as they said that wasn't why they were appointed. The other guys were also on the wrong side of 40 and in shape. If you call round a shape. I was in my early 20s and wanted to get ahead, so I did extra to prove myself. The overtime that he scratched out on that one time did not get paid. At least, not to his knowing. I added extra hours over the next 2 months to make up for that, so I did get paid eventually. This happened in 2008, so before smartphones and voice recording. My work phone was a Nokia that had no internet ability. I would call and text. I don't even think that I had a camera. We connected to the internet on our laptops via a dongle. It's a device that takes a SIM card, plugs into the USB port, and then connects to the cell network, almost like dial-up internet. It even made a similar sound. My laptop did not even have Wi-Fi. If I wanted to connect at the office, I had to plug in the LAN cable. Well done. You are definitely in the right here, and I'm not sure that anyone would argue with that. There's a recurring lesson in these sorts of stories. Ask for receipts, or in this case emails, and keep them as proof. This applies to property, employment, and legal matters. Certain authority figures are very slimy and will go back on their word and claim ignorance the first chance that they get, and it sounds like your boss was no different. And being able to show them, or a third deciding party, that they unequivocally made certain promises or are lying might be one of the most satisfying gotcha moments that you can pull. So screw your boss and well done on getting a better deal out of your day-to-day work, you legend. And given that when you wrote and updated the post you hadn't been replaced, it seems like you're still too valuable for them to try and replace you. Standing up for your own worth is never a bad thing, folks. Get paid what you're due, call out authority when they behave like absolute jerks, and keep your gosh darn receipts. Boss said no shorts. I work as an office that sells bulk goods to businesses that use them, like retail outlets, among other places. Our office doesn't usually have a strict dress code, but we recently got a new boss, Butthead, who's quite literally the stick up my butt. He's constantly yelling at everyone about basic crap like punching in a minute or two late or early, or being a word or two off the script during outbound or inbound calls. Dealing with him in general has made me hate the job more. As it's getting hotter, I've been wearing khaki shorts to work over the past few days, which is something I've always done for the past few years, and nobody has confronted me about it before, so I figured nothing would change this year. But boy, was I wrong. About halfway through my shift, this boss comes to my desk and realizes I'm wearing shorts, and is visibly annoyed. He mutters something under his breath and goes back to his office. An hour later, I was called into his office where he proceeds to berate me about breaking dress code. He was fuming and ended the meeting with, "From now on, you follow dress code to the book, or you're fired." Say no more, boss. That night, I went home and read up on the dress code rules. There was, in fact, a rule against shorts, so I was annoyed but kept on. And then I found it. There was no rule preventing males to wear skirts or kilts. Here's where I devised my plan. I immediately ordered a pink and white striped kilt online, as well as matching knee-high socks and shirt. There were no rules stated in the dress code against any of this, surprisingly. About a week later, the clothes arrived, and here is what ensued the following workday. I walked in wearing my new pink business outfit, and immediately the whole office is staring at me. And the boss who came in to cover another boss's shift in the morning was beet red in the face, and yelled at me to come into his office. He goes on a 10-minute rant about how I'm a useless employee and that he's going to fire me for not following the dress code to a T. I simply stated, "I am in dress code. I urge you to read the employee handbook." He ended up reading the whole thing in front of me, and I could see him getting more and more angry as he realized I didn't break any rules. I asked him, "Am I free to go back to work?" And he looked at me with a death glare, muttered something under his breath, and waved me off. Are you Jake Peralta from Brooklyn Nine-Nine? Because this sure sounds like if he worked a regular office job. And yes, in my opinion, this new authority figure is indisputably the jerk, even though you deliberately went out of your way to annoy other people. He was asking for it. Your boss is a massive tool and took a system that sounds like it was working fine and just decided to make everyone in it less happy with no positive effects on the things that will actually make the company run better. Not only that, but your outfit sounds rad as all hell, and I hope you continue to wear it for the rest of the summer. Office Outfit Award of the Year? I damn well hope so. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. Put the playlist on in the background to finish listening to all the stories. Or if you want to check out some great music, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, give Am I the Genius a shot. Everything linked in the description.